I had a lot of behavioral students this year, last year rather. So in terms of that, we had a student who's actually very, very bright when it came to math, but he just needed a little bit. He would have to stand around and sort of walk around. And so because during lecture time and because it was such a small physical space, he needed to be sort of up and moving and had a lot of sort of kinetic energy to himself. And so we used that. We said, okay, fine, I'm going to send you down to go get trash bags, or I'm going to go send you down to do X, Y, Z. And he would do this, and this was great. And he's like, oh, I'm participating. I'm being useful to the team. But he's still not stuck in a room that's closet-sized and having to, bounce off the walls. And I know that he has an IEP, and I can take a guess, but I'm not going to. And that had that whole, he really did. And by the end of the class, he actually would tell me, I need to get up and move, and he would, and that'd be fine, but he wouldn't be disruptive with it. So, and I think the idea that he could participate and not be excluded because of what other people perceive to be his behavior issues was great. So he felt really sort of included, not, and actually made an effort to be able to participate in the school store each week, which was really nice. He didn't always quite succeed, but a couple times he said, I did all my homework and I got an A on the test, so can I? Sure, absolutely. You did what you were supposed to do. Come on in, and you can, and if he needed to go run, I'd send him down for trash bags or something, So yeah, I mean, it was really nice to be able to see that he felt included and that he was participating and that he felt like he was being productive.
I'm just thinking about a lot of the positive adult interactions we've had with students about within the time that we spend with them in the morning. Some students sometimes come in a bad mood. They're angry at the world. They're angry at life. And I think just spending time with adults in the Cool Beans environment where it's pretty positive, people are friendly, I think that's most helpful of all. Sometimes kids just need to see a smiling face or be around some positive energy to make them feel better. Oh, I'm trying to think if there's been anybody else. The male student that thought of the mugs, the travel mugs, the ceramic mugs, and the travel mugs, he loved the business. He truly did. And he's probably the biggest student to this day that loved our business the most. I just picture him. I know he's in college now. He hasn't stepped back in yet. I hope he does. But, again, I think Cool Beans was a very small part of just being that positive energy in the morning when things didn't go right at home and helping him get through the day. So maybe not a whole lot of really individual, detailed, and specific stories, but I just think the positive interaction in the morning made a huge difference to a lot of our students.
It's a gen ed student that really had trouble her junior year. She felt bullied. She felt like she didn't want to come to school. She had a terrible junior year, and because of her participation with this group, when you walk into this room, there's such a high energy and there's such a positive atmosphere that that sort of started to turn things around for her. And she wrote a beautiful thank you note to the students. And this year, I've got two gen ed kids, one who's really struggling in school and came to me in the first week of school and said, first month, and said she was struggling and she really wanted to feel a part of something. And so she kind of got the sense that this was, sort of the place to do that. And then I've also gone out and recruited a young man that I know is very, very troubled, but he's awesome. And he was in here for the first time the other day, and he was an angel. And it's one of those things I'd like to videotape, so I'm not sure anybody would believe that this particular student was capable of such kindness because of his reputation thus far. So it's definitely a place that I see change happening with all kids.
I was very apprehensive about it in the beginning, about the kids and buying into the whole thing. And so it took some time, and I think that overwhelmingly the kids without disabilities, they just really, not because they had to, they just really enjoyed working with the kids. They enjoyed being the mentor leaders and having that role, and they really developed some some good relationships. And when we interviewed them in the end, I think overwhelmingly they said that the thing that they learned most was patience, that the kids, that they felt that they had so many more skills and abilities than they ever imagined, and that their personalities were so great, and they really enjoyed being with the kids and doing things with them, not because they were in the class and they had to, but they really had a good time, and they really developed these relationships, and they just, I think it just became a really good opportunity for them. And they've come back and visited the business just to see how things are going, see how the kids are going, and so it was an opportunity to really develop some friendships, and for kids to see what our kids with disabilities are capable of. And that was another thing that they were so surprised that they could do these things and that they had these abilities and hadn't had the opportunity to really interact with them before. And I think we talked about, when you go out in business and you have a business or you're working, now, you'll know that people with disabilities have a lot of ability and can be have great contributions to make in a business place or in a relationship. And so I think that was a great outcome of the program, too. And some of the kids still keep in contact and still see each other. So it worked out really well.
So being that, you had students with, obvious visible disabilities or who had behavioral problems who were there and out there kind of fixing bikes, do you think that it changed kind of other people's awareness outside of the business, or other students or other teachers about, what it means to have a visual impairment, or do you think there was an awareness generated among the rest of the school about these students' capabilities?
Well, to answer that question, probably the biggest amazement, of course, was with the student that was visually impaired. How can he repair a bike? And then it was clearly obvious that he was able to repair with the feel of his hands, and he knew the bike well enough. So, of course, that had the admiration of his peers. But then you have the students that don't have the visible disability, and they were still admired and received a lot of recognition because they had that skill. But they didn't have anything that denoted that they had a disability. So that was kind of the thing that was observed and admired was the skill. And the issue of the disability never came up because it was not visible.
One of the girls that was part of the first stage group and the first competition group, and she was the one that was just thoroughly flabbergasted about the amphitheater. And she did help with the business, and she did compete the first time, and she came back this summer. She was a very bright girl, but not very engaged in academics. Good with Sage, though, and she liked that. And she came back. She was very excited that we had won the national competition this year and thought that was just amazing compared to, she was there the very first time when we crashed and burned a little bit. Maybe it's not crashed and burned. We just kind of glided at a low altitude maybe. Anyway, but she's in the Navy now, and she's being trained as a corpsman because she wanted a medical career, and she found her purpose and she found her path, and she said that she was always glad for her Sage experience because she said that it helped her build a lot of skills that she could use, wherever she went.
The story of the young man who was he was a beneficiary of the program. He's the one that just had a awful bicycle, flats all the time. The chains were broken, just needed to be repaired. And he was a sixth grader, and he became friends with the student that was blind, the eighth grader, and they developed a friendship and a respect for one another. And that also helped the young boy, kind of the one that had behavior problems, to kind of come around, and he happened to have been acknowledged as the most improved student for the 6th grade. And I believe that his involvement and the nurturing that occurred over the bike program was a contributing factor, along with his relationship with the vice principal, who also happens to be a cyclist. So there was a common theme that helped him as a beneficiary of the bike program.
I think what really stood out is when we lost our students with disabilities and were kind of on our own. I think we were amazed at how well the kids stepped up and didn't want to end the business. They wanted to keep it going, and they didn't care if they had their partners, they could do it, and they became the leaders. And I think that was really, for us as the teachers, really satisfying, I guess, to say, here, they learned, they modeled, they work with these kids, and here, they just took over and kept the business going, and the skills that they learned, and, you know, not all of them, but a good group of them, just, and I think that was huge to see that they didn't, you know, they're like, well, we don't need it, we can do it, we know what to do now, and they did. And so I think just that the idea that they really overcame their disabilities and to be able to run this business and to learn what they had to do and continue it, and it's just great to see them take such pride and ownership in their own business. And I think they know that they can do it now. They can be successful, and they could do their own business. And we just had somebody come in from DVR and do a presentation on entrepreneurship, and that they are now offering opportunities for people with disabilities to start their own business, and they have supports and setup. And so it was a good timing for some of the kids, and they were all excited about other ways that they could start a business once they're out of school. And so I think that they learned what they could do. They have the confidence now, and it's just been a wonderful experience all around for the kids and for us to see such growth.
Our successes, things about how many Sage alumni were so excited and texting back and forth and emails about the competition this year and winning, because they still felt like they were part of it, that they had started the organization and began this legacy, and it became more than just them or more than just a club. And, you know, that the kids are proud to be part of that organization.
I've been here for the Joe Bomb event. I've been successful, and I've stepped up and talked on the microphone. That made me feel good. I do feel like I'm independent, and right now I am working at McDonald's Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm a lobby attendant. I clean the floors. I take the trays back when there needs to be put back there. I clean the garbages. I make sure the floors are swept, broom mopped, and I clean the windows. And it makes me happy and makes me proud that I'm out there to show people how much I care about the community, and it makes me feel very good. And I think I make my work accomplished, and I think I'm really improving in the next WW program. I've done a lot of sites